I want to talk about five ancient civilizations that may have possessed advanced technology. Now, when we think about advanced technology, we usually imagine something modern: electricity, aircraft, complicated machines, massive cities, and buildings engineered to survive natural disasters. But what if some of those ideas are not as modern as we think? All around the world, we find enormous stone structures, strangely precise construction, sophisticated ancient cities, and stories describing technology that seems completely out of place for its time. Some of the civilizations in this video are accepted by mainstream archaeology, others come from ancient legends, esoteric writings, and other alternative historical theories. I'm not saying that every claim has been proven, but when you put all of these stories and discoveries together, they do raise interesting questions. Could human civilization be much older and much more technologically advanced than we've been taught? So, number one is Mu or Lemuria. We're starting with what some researchers describe as the first great human civilization. Mu, according to esoteric traditions, existed on an enormous continent in the Pacific Ocean. The civilization supposedly began around 78,000 years ago and lasted for approximately 52,000 years. That would make it far older than any civilization currently recognized by mainstream archaeology. The story says that Mu was eventually destroyed by earthquakes and geological upheaval, possibly connected to a shift in the Earth's poles around 24,000 BC. Now, Mu is not necessarily described as a civilization filled with futuristic machines. Its greatest achievements were supposedly its social organization, education system, and ability to construct buildings that could survive earthquakes. The people of Mu were said to live under one government and speak one language. Education was considered the foundation of the entire civilization. Every person was trained in laws of nature and educated in one professional trade. Children reportedly remained in compulsory education until the age of 21. After that, completed another 7 years of citizenship training. That meant a person could not become a full citizen until the age of 28. Think about how different that is from modern society. Citizenship was not something that people automatically received. It was something that they had to prepare for through decades of education. The civilization is also credited with building enormous megalithic structures designed to withstand earthquakes that frequently occurred around the Pacific Ring of Fire. Supporters of the theory believe that some mysterious ancient ruins found through the Pacific may be remnants of this lost civilization. Now, whether Mu actually existed as a single continent remains heavily debated, but legends of a sunken Pacific homeland appear throughout several cultures, which is one reason the story continues to attract attention. Number two is Atlantis. Atlantis is easily the most famous lost civilization in history. Most people know Atlantis from the writings of Greek philosopher Plato, but alternative traditions describe Atlantis in much greater detail. According to the theory in this document, Atlantis emerged after the destruction of Mu. When Mu sank, enormous amounts of water supposedly rushed into the newly created Pacific Basin. This caused ocean levels elsewhere to fall, exposing islands and land in the Atlantic Ocean. These lands eventually joined together and formed the continent we now call Atlantis. Although the document claims its original name was Poseid or Poseid. Atlantis is described as an extremely advanced civilization, possibly more technologically advanced than our own. A 19th century book called A Dweller on Two Planets describes several devices supposedly used by the Atlanteans. These include an air conditioning system, crystal lamps, electrically powered weapons, monorail transportation, and machines that collected water directly from the atmosphere. The book also described aerial vehicles controlled through forces of levitation and repulsion. Some of these ideas sound strangely modern. Atmospheric water generators now do exist. Monorails are used in major cities. Railguns use electromagnetic energy to launch projectiles, and engineers are actively researching new forms of propulsion. That does not prove Atlantis existed, but explains why people find these descriptions fascinating. The American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce also spoke about Atlantis. He claimed Atlanteans used aircraft and powerful crystals, sometimes called firestones, as sources of energy. According to these accounts, Atlantis was not destroyed because people lacked intelligence. It was destroyed because they misused their knowledge and power. That theme appears repeatedly in stories about lost civilizations. A society becomes extremely advanced, but its technological development moves faster than its wisdom. Eventually, the technology that created its prosperity contributes to its own destruction. Number three, the Rama Empire of India. The third civilization is the Rama Empire of ancient India. Unlike Mu and Atlantis, ancient Indian civilization is supported by extensive archaeological evidence. However, the idea that it possessed aircraft, energy weapons, or any other futuristic technology remains controversial. For many years, Western historians believed that advanced Indian civilization did not begin much earlier than approximately 500 BC. That view changed dramatically after archaeologists discovered the cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa in the Indus Valley. These cities were thousands of years older than previously expected. What is especially impressive is how organized they were. The streets were arranged in carefully planned patterns. Buildings were constructed using standardized bricks. Many homes had private bathing areas, wells, and connection to covered drainage systems. These cities appeared to have been planned before they were built rather than expanding randomly over time. Their plumbing and their sewage systems were remarkably sophisticated. In some respects, they were more organized than sanitation systems found in many much later cities. Alternative researchers connect the Indus Valley civilization to an even older society called the Rama Empire. Ancient Indian texts describe flying vehicles known as vimanas. These vehicles are often portrayed as chariots or palaces traveling in the sky. Some interpretations describe them as symbolic or mythological. Others believe they may be memories of real aircraft. Ancient Sanskrit writings also describe battles involving powerful weapons, explosions, and strange effects on people and the environment. Again, these descriptions are open to interpretation. They are not conclusive evidence of nuclear weapons or aircraft, but they have caused some researchers to wonder whether the ancient Indian epics contain distorted memories of technology that existed far beyond recorded history. At the very least, the discoveries at Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa prove that sophisticated urban planning existed much earlier than historians once believed. Number four, the Osirian civilization. The fourth civilization is known as the Osirian civilization. According to this theory, the Mediterranean Sea was once a large fertile valley occupied by an advanced culture that existed before dynastic Egypt. The Nile River supposedly traveled much farther than it does today. Instead of ending in the Mediterranean Sea, it continued through the valley, formed a large inland lake, and eventually flowed into the Atlantic Ocean near Gibraltar. The theory says that when Atlantis was destroyed, massive geological changes caused the Mediterranean basin to flood. The Osirian cities were submerged, and the survivors escaped to higher ground. Supporters believe that ancient Egyptian, Minoan, and Mycenaean civilizations may have inherited knowledge from this earlier Osirian culture. There really are submerged ancient settlements throughout the Mediterranean. However, they are not all from one civilization or one specific catastrophic event. Still, underwater ruins show that coastlines and sea levels have changed significantly over thousands of years. One of the most impressive locations connected to the Osirian theory is Baalbek in modern Lebanon. Baalbek contains some of the largest stone blocks ever used in construction. Several of the stones in and around the site weigh hundreds of tons. The largest unfinished stone discovered nearby may weigh more than 1,500 tons. Just stop and picture that. A single stone weighing more than 1,000 tons had to be cut, shaped, and then somehow moved into position. Even with modern equipment today, moving something that large would require careful planning and enormous machinery. Mainstream archaeologists generally attribute the monumental platform to Roman construction, possibly combined with earlier building phases. Alternative researchers argue that portions of the foundation may be much older and could have belonged to a forgotten civilization. Regardless of who built it, Baalbek demonstrates that ancient builders understood quarrying, transportation, and engineering on an extraordinary scale. The fifth civilization is described as the Uyghur civilization of the Gobi Desert. Today, the Gobi is an enormous dry region covering up parts of northern China and southern Mongolia. But ancient climate conditions were different. Some areas that are desert today once contained lakes, rivers, and grasslands. According to alternative traditions, the Gobi region once contained thriving cities and even ocean ports. These cities supposedly existed during the same period as Atlantis and the Rama Empire. The civilization was said to possess vimanas and other advanced machines. Edgar Casey predicted that explorers would eventually discover a lost city in the Gobi containing elevators. That discovery has never been confirmed, but large parts of the desert remain archaeologically unexplored. Another unusual story comes from Russian artist and explorer Nicholas Roerich. During an expedition in Central Asia in the 1920s, Roerich and members of his group reported seeing a bright oval shaped object moving through the sky. Some interpret the sighting as an unidentified aircraft. Others believe it may have been a meteor, balloon, or another ordinary object viewed under unusual conditions. The document connects this to the possibility that remnants of ancient technology could have survived somewhere in Tibet or in Central Asia. It also describes a secret school supposedly established by survivors of Lemuria. Before Mu was destroyed, its spiritual leaders allegedly moved their records and knowledge to Tibet. There, they created a hidden library and school, sometimes called the Great White Brotherhood. Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu is connected to this tradition. Ancient stories say near the end of his life, Lao Tzu traveled westward towards a mysterious land associated with ancient masters. Alternative researchers wonder whether those stories preserve memories of hidden communities that protected knowledge from an earlier civilization. There is no solid archaeological proof for that claim, but the idea of hidden libraries and secluded teachers appears repeatedly across Central Asian traditions. So, after looking at these civilizations, there is one pattern that keeps repeating. We find stories of enormous ancient societies. We find advanced engineering. We find buildings designed to survive earthquakes, legends about flight, powerful energy sources, and technology that we eventually lost. Some claims supported by archaeology, others come from mythology, clairvoyant readings, and alternative historical theories. The important thing is to understand the difference. Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Baalbek, and all these other places. We can visit them, we can measure their stones, we can study their construction. The claims involving crystal flower pans, ancient aircraft, and lost continents are much harder to prove. But history is never complete.
New discoveries are constantly forcing archaeologists to revise what they thought they knew. Entire cities are still being discovered beneath jungles, deserts, and oceans. Maybe some ancient legends are only stories. Maybe some stories are sometimes what remain after the physical evidence has disappeared. So the real question is not whether every theory in this video is completely true. The question is whether we have underestimated the intelligence, knowledge, and accomplishments of the people who came before us. And judging by the ruins I left behind, I think the answer is almost certainly yes.